If you thought travel was getting complicated before, welcome to 2026. Fellow explorers, in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you some of the travel trends on the horizon this year. I'm going to be sharing the good ones, the bad ones, and the torture class ones. Seems like the seats on airplanes keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller. But we're going to start with the bad. We're going to talk about some of the things like the border protections and the visa waivers in Europe and the UK. We're going to talk about some of the over-tourism fees, some of the good things we're going to talk about. Train travel, definitely on the rise. Lots of good trends from us travelers about traveling for sleep and wellness and those sorts of things. And so let's go ahead and get right into it. So first, we're going to start with the bad, starting with the digital Iron Curtain. The day of grabbing your passport, spontaneously booking a flight, and getting on a plane to some faraway destination. Well, sadly, it seems like in 2026, those days are over for many countries, particularly those in Europe. And this is kind of like this, well, you don't need a visa, but you need a visa. It's a visa, but not a visa. It's a Visa-Waiver program. So there's two big ones. We'll talk through the European one, and then we'll talk through the UK one because they're separate. So in Europe, they have this thing that they've established called the European Travel Information Authorization System, ETIAS. And these are the countries in 2026 that you will require an ETIAS authorization to travel to. Now, it's not in force completely in the beginning of 2026. It is starting like fully enforcement in late 2026, where even connecting flights in these countries, you will need an ETIAS approval. What does that mean? Basically, it means that around at least 3 days before you travel, you need to go on a website, you need to give them some information, maybe a picture of yourself. You need to pay some money, something like 20 euros or $23, and then the country or EU processes your travel approval and then lets you know it's okay to go. Now, when you get one of these ETIAS approvals into Europe, it is good for multiple entries up to 90 days in any 180-day period. So you basically get like a 6-month block that you can go, and you can go for 90 days within that window. Europe's really trying to crack down on people who are going like 90 days at a time, leaving for a day, coming back 90 days again. So the other kind of like challenge with this is that the airlines, they tell you like, well, yeah, it's up to you to figure out all these things that you need. And we're going to see it's going to get even more complicated here in a moment. Yes. And Alex on the live stream says they just want to tax you for going there. And indeed, this is absolutely one of the reasons why they're doing this, because it's not just they're collecting your information, they're also collecting 20 euros. Okay, so the UK has their own system, but we're going to get that to a moment. In Europe, they've also established, in addition to collecting your information before you go, they're establishing a new system when you arrive in Europe. It is the EU entry-exit system. And so this is the system that people at customs, the customs officials use to process you and verify your identity when you come into Europe. And so this is being implemented now across airports across Europe, and basically they're going to be collecting a lot more biometric data than they were before. What does that mean? Think collecting your fingerprints and collecting a picture of your face. Except the challenge is that these systems take a lot longer to use and process than the traditional ways of getting into Europe, and so you might face yourself with very long waits coming into Europe as the airports are still figuring out all this fancy technology and collecting your information as you go in. So be prepared and be aware of short connections in Europe, because if you've got a short connection and you get in a bottleneck like this, well, I'd allow yourself at least 3 hours if you're connecting in Europe this summer. Okay, and then the UK has their own system because the UK did Brexit, and so they're not part of the European Union anymore. And so their system, they call the ETA, or the Electronic Travel Authorization. And the ETA, basically kind of a similar thing. You go on a website, you pay some money, 10 to 20 pounds, and, like 3 days before, same sort of deal. the big deal here, though, is that if the UK used to be your like connecting gateway to go to Europe, you may need to get a UK authorization and a Europe authorization, both for your trip if you were connecting in London to go to those places. So pay attention to that so that you don't end up not being able to get really where you're going. Okay, yeah, Alex says some of this seems like more trouble than it's worth. Indeed, I feel like, I mean, you know, the powers that be obviously think it's worth it. Kid Blue Creations says, what if you're on a cruise ship? I don't know. I don't know if these things apply to cruise ships or these things just apply to airplanes. I am guessing, because I didn't look at those details. I'm not a big cruiser, but I'm guessing by this picture of the ETA from the UK, I'm guessing that it probably applies to cruise ships too. We're going to talk about cruise ship entry fees because cruise ship entry fees are another layer on top of these things too. Okay. So there was a question in the comment. Databetic left the funny this and that about what is the ETA on the full ETIAS authorization. I mean, it's been they've been trying to do this for a long time. They've stated that the end of 2026 is when it will be fully implemented, but I wouldn't hold your breath that it will all be complete and perfect by the end of this year. These things take a lot of time and a lot of energy. Okay, so the next bad trend in 2026 is the global proliferation of over-tourism taxes. Over-tourism has been a thing, but it's really become a thing where municipalities, attractions are like, there are too many people here. They're not giving us enough money. And so we are going to implement a fee to manage our crowds, also known as monetize our crowds. So one of them, for example, is in the city of Edinburgh in Scotland. They have introduced this thing that they call the visitor levy. So if you're going to Edinburgh, they have a percentage-based model where basically you pay, it's essentially a 5% tax. If you are staying for 5 nights, you get a 5% tax that goes into this levy. They expect in Scotland to raise £100 million by 2030, and they say it is intended to help with infrastructure to manage all of the tourists that are going there. This starts in July of 2026. It applies to hotels, bed and breakfasts, Airbnbs as well. It's interesting, though, that it doesn't apply after 5 nights. You only pay this visitor levy for your first 5 nights at a particular accommodation, and if you stay longer, then they don't charge you more because they're trying to encourage longer stays. In Venice, Venice has a different approach to it. Venice, their approach is that Venice in Italy, they think that there's too many people that just visit Venice on day trips, and the day trippers, they don't spend enough money to cover the infrastructure costs of the city. So Venice has formalized this thing they call the access fee to effectively charge day trippers that come into the city. And so what is that fee? By the way, it is not for every day coming into Venice. It is for 60 specific stress days in 2026, primarily weekends from April through July. But if you are going to Venice on one of those weekends, April through July, then you need to go to this website right here and you need to pay €5 for the privilege of going into Venice. If you book at least 4 days in advance. If you don't book 4 days in advance, then you need to pay €10 to go into Venice. So it's kind of like a theme park. The price goes up the later you book. Overnight guests, if you have a hotel or lodging or accommodation in Venice, you are exempt from paying this fee, but you do need to get like an exemption code from your lodging that you would provide in the event that you are inspected. Chris, what do you mean inspected? Well, unlike a theme park, in Venice, there are no turnstiles or things like that that you go to enter the city. Instead, the way they enforce this is there are inspectors throughout the city who may randomly say, show me your QR code. And then in that case, you need to show them the QR code that you paid the fee or that you have a QR code of the lodging that you're staying in Venice. What is the fine? I don't know. I didn't get that far. And it's not April yet, so we haven't seen how this is actually played out this year. Jesse says, I'm going to Italy later this year. Great info. I hope you enjoy your trip to Italy, Jesse, and make sure you buy your Venice entry QR code at least 4 days before. Save yourself a little bit of money. Kid Blue Creation says it reminds him of the Disneyland reservation calendar. It does, absolutely. This looks a lot like the Disneyland reservation calendar. This is now the, Venice is the theme park of Italy. Okay, so I mentioned we're going to talk about cruise ship fees, and so these are big too. There are many municipalities that are now charging more fees for cruise ships, and not just to the cruise line, but to the passengers on the cruise line. So Norway is one that charges cruise lines like 3% more for, cruise passengers and overnight visitors. But Greece has a very interesting approach. In Greece, popular islands like Santorini are now charging a disembarkation fee. That also rises based on peak seasons or non-peak seasons. In the peak season in Santorini, if you are arriving by cruise ship, you will be charged a disembarkation fee of €20 or about $23 US. The cruise line then passes it on to you. So it also then leads you to a decision about, well, in this port, do I want to get off or not? Because if I get off the cruise ship, it's going to cost me more. If you've got a family of 4, you might be spending nearly €100 just to get off the ship and go to that port. Now, the U.S. is not exempt in these sort of things. So within the USA, the national parks are now charging non-residents extra fees. This is also a proliferation we're seeing around the world where at various attractions, non-residents of the country pay more than residents of the country. And so in the USA, this is kind of really the first time this is being implemented at a large scale. At 10 national parks within the USA, non-residents of the USA need to pay $100 extra per person to go to these 10 national parks. Acadia National Park, Bryce National Park, Everglades National Park, Glacier National Park, Grand Canyon National Park, Grand Teton National Park, Rocky Mountain, Sequoia and Kings Canyon, Yellowstone, Yosemite, and Zion. I must have counted something wrong. Anyway, there's 10. So that is in addition to the $35 fee that you pay to go in general. Then there's this extra non-resident fee. My pro tip for non-residents going to these national parks is if it is 3 or more of you, or you are going to 2 national parks on your trip to the USA or within 1 year, it is a better deal to buy the non-resident annual pass. The non-resident annual pass is $250, and it includes a whole carload, so your entire car can get into most national parks with this pass. There are some parks that you can't drive in and you have to walk in, and in the case that you go one of those, this pass includes you and 3 additional adults. For people who are residents of the USA, if you wonder how you avoid paying this fee when you buy your tickets or go in to the park, you need to show a US passport, a US government issued driver's license or state ID, a driver's license issued by a state, or a permanent resident card like a green card. All right. This is Mystic Guy also says this, though. You can drive through after certain hours. It is true that I feel like many national parks, they only staff the gates during certain times of the day, and later times of the day, there's nobody there. There are still honor systems that you're supposed to find a kiosk and pay somehow, but you can do with Mystic Guy's information what you wish. Alex Hernandez says, are the breathing fees on Earth? Yeah, I cut 2027, coming soon. Breathing fees. Okay. And Narrow Road says, my guess is that the so-called infrastructure changes or improvements supposedly paid by all these fees will probably never come. Janelle says, Glacier National Park in Montana is stunning driving down from Canada. I've never been to Glacier National Park, so that's clearly on my list of places to go. Okay, let's go on to the degradation of the economy class experience flying on airplanes and how many airlines are beginning to implement what I call the torture class. And so the interesting part about this is that people generally say that they want more comfortable seats, and people generally complain about the experience in economy. Yet, people are generally not willing to pay more for a better experience, and people tend to book the cheapest flight and deal with whatever pain comes with it. So the aviation industry has responded to that and tried to figure out how they can cram more seats into airplanes so that they can charge less money per seat. So starting with Southwest Airlines here in the USA, Southwest Airlines effective now, has done away with their open seating policy. Southwest Airlines now does assigned seating, but if you want to pick one in advance, you have to pay more. But not just that. In order to be able to sell more expensive seats and create some seats that have 34 inches of legroom, or pitch, as they don't have 34 inches of legroom. They measure how much room you have in a seat by pitch. It's the seat back to seat front to seat back, how much room you have in there. And so Southwest has created these 34-inch pitch seats, but they've reduced all the other seats from 32 inches to 31 inch. So they've taken 1 inch away from all the seats on the plane so that they could make a few rows of a few more inches of seats so that you can pay more. So you're effectively paying the same amount of money on Southwest for smaller seats, but it gets worse. It's not just Southwest. So let's talk about WestJet. There was somebody who commented on my announcement for this live stream about this, and it was in here before they did. So WestJet, which is a Canadian carrier, has been in a lot of controversy because they are and have begun reconfiguring their Boeing 737 fleet to a reduced seat pitch of 28 inches, so 3 inches smaller than Southwest Airlines, and installing fixed back seats that don't recline. There's so much backlash against WestJet doing this from social media, news media, and travelers that WestJet has paused the rollout of their torture class to the rest of their fleet. They have already done it on 43. No, they've done it on 22. They've done it on 22. They had planned to do it on 43, but they have now paused their rollout pending public feedback. So that'll be interesting. And why do they do this? Well, obviously because they want to be able to fit in a couple more rows of seats. And in that case, they want us to be all in there like sardines. Yes, Kathy says that might be okay for short flights, but long flights would be torture. I agree. And so, WestJet has stated that they only intend to use these new configured aircraft on the shorter routes, but we all know that aircraft swaps happen and things like that. And boy, you do it in a few more places and you're like, well, people are okay with it here. Pretty soon it starts rolling out the whole fleet. Points Traveler flew on Southwest today, has the priority card, was able to select an emergency row seat within 48 hours of flight. I was the only one in an emergency row seat. Definitely happy with the change. Thank you for that report, Points Traveler. Sounds pretty good if you can do that. And you're the only one in there. So you got the whole aisle for yourself. When it was open seating, it was never that way, right? The emergency exit rows were definitely always the first one has to go. Alfredo Solo Travels says, when are we getting these stand-only aisles? No seat, just standing. I'm sure it's coming soon to some airline near you. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to the battle over junk fees. And why is this? I'm still in the bad section. Why is this in the bad section? It seems like this would be good. In particular, well, I feel like the USA is the home of junk fees for airlines, for hotels, and all these things. And the US Department of Transportation has been pushing this new legislation to make much more transparent pricing and upfront pricing and less drip pricing and less fees, but I don't know. You know, like it's a little bit better on hotels, but I don't know that it's still that great on airlines. And I was like preparing for this video. I was like trying to look at like Spirit Airlines on their website for like, if I book the $25 flight from Orange County to Las Vegas, then how much does it cost to check a bag, carry on a bag, all those sorts of things? And none of those are transparent at the beginning of the booking process. Like only after you've put in a bunch of information and done some other things do they then reveal all the other pricing. And so I feel like we still have quite a ways to go to have removed all of the junk fees. It's more chatter in the chat about standing seats. Alex says, I don't think any of the federal aviation agencies would allow the standing only seats. Okay, so good. We got something going for us. Some reason. Kid Blue Creation says, does more passengers equal less luggage for each? I just assume you can pay more and you can get more bags on. That's probably how that works. Alex says, I doubt Spirit is going to be around much longer. I enjoy their yellow planes. Sad, but their business practices probably didn't lead them to the success that perhaps they hoped. All right, let's talk about some good things now. Let's talk about 2026. Not all doom and gloom. There's a lot of great things on the horizon. Before we get to some of the best trends, I am thirsty. What is Chris drinking today? Today I am drinking a tea from one of my favorite boba tea shops in the USA, Come By Tea, located in Huntington Beach. They make their teas from a tea presso machine, so it's like an espresso machine, except they put tea in it so that every tea is brewed to order. What is this tea? This is the Alishan Oolong tea, which is really quite delicious. Alishan is a very famous tea growing region in Taiwan. If you don't know anything about it, you can YouTube your way to Alishan Yellow Productions. We have a whole video that we did last year touring this really cool tea growing region in Taiwan. Okay, some of the best trends in 2026. First one is the rail renaissance. Like rail is, I'm going to use the phrase making a comeback. Did it ever go away? I mean, I feel like rail definitely, people liked it. Then people didn't like, we tore up all the rails to put in cars. And then, we're not going to use rail because we're going to use planes. And then we got all the discount carriers. We got EasyJet and Ryanair and Spirit Airlines. And we got the torture class. And then we got all the airport security. And so now people are like, trains. Those were pretty good. I got a lot more room on it. I can walk around. That sounds good. So we're really seeing a rail renaissance. In Europe, there's a new Capitals Express train. This is a new route that's going to be launching in 2026. It's a partnership between a bunch of different regional carriers. It's going to connect Prague to Berlin to Copenhagen. Speeds of this train are going to be up to 230 kilometers per hour. They're going to seat 555 people. They're also going to add a night train, so you can take it as a sleeper train. Initially, when it runs, it's going to run twice daily, taking 7 hours from Copenhagen to Berlin and 11 hours if you're going all the way to Prague. It will have a dining car, a cinema area, and should be cool. All right, so that's a cool development. Related to sleepers, not just on this route, but a lot of routes, sleeper trains are definitely making a comeback. There's also new sleeper routes from Brussels to Barcelona and Milan. And you might even see, if you're an avid viewer of YouTube travel content, you might have seen a lot of YouTubers are making a lot more train content. What Ryan Trahan did one on the Orient Express. Josh from Through My Lens, he's done a lot of Amtrak trips across the USA and kind of sleeper cars. So I think it's cool to see this mode of transportation making the rail renaissance that Databetic points out right there. Well done, Databetic. That was a good one right there. Kathy is going on the Eurostar train in July from Paris to London. So excited. That is the train that goes under the water. So Kathy, I hope you enjoy that. Okay. There was a TH asked, what kind of map of Europe is that? It was the map from the train website about those routes. So clearly it was one of those like notional maps instead of actional maps. Alex does say, I mean, train transportation does have its issues in really big places like the USA. Trains for when you'd rather get there in 3 days instead of 3 hours. I am definitely not one to take the train from, Southern California to New York or Chicago or something like that. Like, I think that's crazy talk. I'd rather get there in a day. But for a lot of these travels in Europe and things like that, I am still looking forward to the California high-speed rail that I don't know if it's ever going to be built in my lifetime or not, but I sure hope it is, because I would like to take it. Okay. China is also doing a really aggressive high-speed rail expansion, particularly to Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, they've added destinations to 16 new cities out of Hong Kong, and out of the Hong Kong high-speed rail station, you can now get to like over 100 destinations in China, basically from there without having to transfer to any trains. Another trend that I put in the good section, but some people might not be so happy with this. Chris, why not? I haven't even told you what it is. It's the digital identity revolution, or being able to travel with digital travel credentials instead of physical credentials. So in particular in the USA, you can now put your driver's license on your Samsung phone. You can maybe put on your Apple phone. There's this new TSA Touchless ID program where at 65 airports in spring, it will have expanded to 65 airports. You can go through TSA without showing any ID, without showing any boarding pass. You just walk up, the kiosk takes your picture, it knows it's you, and it lets you in. And so it definitely creates a much easier way of like getting around the airport. You don't have to be like, where did that boarding pass go? Where did that passport go? I mean, this isn't seamless because eventually you're like, I need my passport, but it does make it that you don't have to take it out as many times. Kathy says, I have my digital license on my phone. Very good, Kathy. We have an early adopter right there. I definitely enjoy coming into the US having global entry. It allows you, when you come into the US, to bypass the normal lines and go through these other lines that are like your, whatever, your pre-cleared or something like that. And global entry now is entirely facial recognition. You don't have to use a kiosk. You don't really have to talk to anybody. Like at the airports where they've implemented the newest global entry tech, you just walk through customs and there are cameras that detect you, and then an agent calls out and goes, Chris, and I'm like, yes, welcome home. I'm like, all right, thanks. Now, there are certainly people who will say, there's privacy implications and what are they doing with all of our bio information, but assuming that we felt all those things were good, Professor Fear says not dystopian at all. Professor Fear clearly lives in the dystopian fear world of that, which is okay. We can all live in our own worlds. It's fine. The real Brendan King says, is global entry different than clear? Global entry is definitely different than clear. Global entry is focused on your entry into the US, so it's about customs on like where passport check is, and if you have global entry, there's a separate global entry line. Clear is about going through security, like TSA type security, and proving you are who you are when you go through that security instead of using your traditional ID check. Yeah, and I feel this way about Janelle, which is they're already spying on us. They already know. So that's it. I just give it to them in a different way. So I'm pretty sure all the people that want to spy on me already are. And I put all out there on YouTube. So I am someone who really has nothing to hide. or if I would, I wouldn't be making all these videos. Okay. Kind of another cool trend in travel is Hushpitality. This is a good phrase. Hushpitality. What's Hushpitality? Well, the phrase a few years back after COVID was revenge travel. Everybody wants to go on revenge travel and get, do all these amazing things because they couldn't for many years. But now that people, for the most part, have kind of like gotten back to work and gotten back to school and gotten back to their hectic lives that they've had before, people want to travel to rest and recharge. So many travelers now cite that, the reasons they're traveling is not to make up for lost years, but to rest. And because of that, many hotels are realizing this, and many hotels are trying to actually make it a quieter experience. Noise neutral zones, soundproof suites, circadian lighting systems are the things you'll find as new luxury amenities in many of the higher end hotels. And so we're finding, this was me at the Alila Ventana Big Sur, which I would say was a very tranquil hospitality place to stay. Okay. Back on people spying on us. RX YouTube says, I'm disappointed in the airport TSA x-ray scan. I shouldn't have been drinking while I read this. They didn't tell me that my kidney stone was 6 meters. And since you are a prescription YouTuber, the doctor of YouTube, I could see why you would be concerned about that. SD Crusader says, my info has been stolen at least a dozen times given the amount of class action proceeds I've received. I feel like most of our information has probably been stolen many times. And Brandon says, thanks for explaining the difference between clear and global entry. All right, thank you. Okay, so some other cool trends in travel that we're seeing also many travelers want to travel for the fan voyage. What does that mean? That means that people want to travel for sports, but not just for sports. They also want to travel for the experiences, cultural rituals that go along with those sports. Things like going to Japan and experiencing the eclectic energy of sumo wrestling, or what many people tell me, the Savannah Bananas in Savannah, Georgia. I have not seen them yet, but they're like the Harlem Globetrotters. They're like an exhibition baseball team that dress in yellow. So you can check out this year to see a lot of sports fan tourism experience packages. Another trend in travel, and by the way, these set of things that we're going into now, these were actually a set of things that Expedia put into their 2026 travel trends report that Expedia is and hotels.com are seeing as part of their, like, what do they see on the horizon for travel? So salvaged stays is another one where people are looking to stay not in a Marriott or a Hyatt, but looking to stay in something historic, maybe a 12th century abbey in France, or maybe this right here, a former samurai house in Japan. This is a hotel that we stayed at. It was a lot of fun. So you had all these slippers as you walk in to the hotel. It's the first hotel that I've ever been to where you get in the lobby and like there's 20 slippers out waiting there for you. So and I will say we've stayed in some like really interesting converted monasteries in Spain, and it's kind of a different way to have like a unique experience. Be like, oh, like where am I sleeping? It is definitely more unique than a Hyatt place. Hotel hopping is a big trend here in 2026, and according to Expedia's survey, 1 in 2 travelers, or 54% of the people they surveyed, now want to hotel hop or book multiple hotels within a specific destination, whether it's to explore different neighborhoods, to maximize deals and discounts, that travelers are likely to hotel hop on cities, on island breaks, visiting festivals, and of course, leisure trips, business leisure trips, combine them together. You're going for business, you might stay in one hotel. You're going for leisure, you might stay in another hotel. And apparently, Expedia says that the most popular pairing for Gen Zs and millennials is booking an all-inclusive hotel with a budget-friendly hotel, allowing them to experience the best of both. Experience the ultra high-end, but also be there for longer because they're not paying much. I've heard this from a lot of people. They'll say, like, I'm going to book that really expensive thing, and I'm going to book these cheap things. I would recommend, if you are going to do that, book the cheap hotel first and then stay in the nice hotel. Because if you do it the other way around, it's going to be really disappointing. Let me tell you. Going from the Alila Ventana Big Sur, that's like $1,000+ a night room that I booked on Hyatt Points, to a really historic hotel on Catalina Island. It was tiny. I probably should have done it in the other order. But anyway, that was it. Okay. Databetic really dislikes changing hotels mid-stay. We like cruises because we can see multiple places without having to unpack. I don't blame you, Databetic. And I'm sort of in between. I mean, you know, we tend, when we go to places, like if we go to Tokyo or things like that, to try and base for a while. But at some point, if you want to see a lot, then yeah, you do have to like pack up and unpack. I think we've probably become professional packers and unpackers on this point. When I did my 3-week road trip here earlier in the year, I think I stayed at like 10-ish hotels, and most was for 1 or 2 nights. I did stay in San Francisco for 5 nights, but all the other ones were 1 or 2 nights. And even in Las Vegas, and I'm crazy, but in Las Vegas for 5 nights, I stayed in 3 different hotels. I don't think if I wasn't making YouTube reviews, I don't know that I would have stayed in 3, but I still might have stayed in 2 because. And I've talked to a lot of people that way. Like when I was meeting people in Las Vegas, which is why I put a picture of Las Vegas here. When I was meeting fellow explorers in Las Vegas, ask them where they're from, ask them where they stay, what hotel are you staying at. Many people would tell me, oh, they're here, but they're moving here. They stayed at this one and they were going to this one. And definitely that note about like maximizing discounts for a lot of people who have like the Amex Platinum card and the Chase Sapphire Reserve. There's a lot of people too who are like, well, if I book with this card for 2 nights, I get this discount and this $200 cash back. And if I book with the Chase Sapphire Reserve card, then I get the edit sort of thing. And so I want to book at 2 different places, so I get these 2 different discounts. I definitely hear that a lot too. RX YouTube says, Chris, what are your thoughts on the Rick Steves effects when he mentions a tranquil gem of a place, the best kept secret, gets swarmed and ruined, quality crash, price spike, the Rick Steves effect? I would say at some level, I experienced that on this hiking trail that OC Girl and I went to over the weekend. If you didn't see my short on it, you can go find it in my shorts feed. It's the most recent one on there. We went to this hiking trail in Chino Hills that like everybody is posting on Instagram. And when we got there, we're like, oh my gosh, this trail is so busy. And they had a trail information desk set up, and OC Girl asked the city worker like, oh, is this trail like new? And the guy's like, no. But it's just gone viral on social media, and so like everybody's here. And I don't know, I didn't feel like it was ruined. Sure, there were a lot more people on it. It probably wasn't as tranquil, but I think that it is definitely one where then municipalities have to respond. And you know, we've seen this in Japan where there was like a 7-Eleven that was famous for being able to get like a great picture of like Mount Fuji behind it, and then to like discourage people from coming to that 7-Eleven, they put up this like big black tarp like on the top of 7-Eleven so you couldn't see Mount Fuji anymore. Eventually they stopped doing that. And I think it's just figuring out, okay, well, if people are coming here, you know, how do we harness that and how do we corral them and give them places to park? I don't think we should just throw our hands up and be like, ah, you know, another example I give of this one, and I know this is the whole, like, frankly, it's the over-tourism thing. And if we talk about, like, Hawaii has this hike called the Stairway to Heaven. And it was a set of stairs that were built by the U.S. military to service things on top of mountains. And it is currently, like, an illegal hike. And they were going to tear it down, but some people have stopped them from tearing it down. But people want to hike this so much that they like go in the darkness of night to crawl under fences to hike this, even though it's like some level of illegal. And where I sit on this is to be like, Hawaii, figure out a way that you can charge people $100 to hike this, and I bet people will pay it. And then you can maintain it, and you can make it nice. You can put in bathrooms, you can put in a parking lot. And anyway, that's just my view. Johnny says, travel better. Is this the new programming? It's the name of the Yellow Productions weekly live stream podcast. When you create a podcast episode on YouTube, you need to give it a name. So yes, this is the Travel Better with Chris podcast, recorded weekly on Tuesdays at 7:30 Pacific time. Tune in every week for another episode of Travel Better by Chris. Yep. There we go. Okay, so some more trends on the horizon for 2026 are farm stays. According to Expedia, they're seeing travelers trading in city lights for starlit skies for people who are interested in staying near farms as the slow travel movement gains momentum. They've seen a 300% spike year over year in guest reviews mentioning farms. Okay. And if you wonder, the most desired farm stay features are nature walks and hiking, the chance to interact with farm animals, and harvesting produce or picking fresh fruit. Okay, I like those things. I don't want to just pick fresh fruit. I want to eat fresh fruit. I think that's I think you have to eat the fruit that you pick. Okay. Readaways are another trend in 2026. People who are interested in taking a trip centered around reading, relaxation, and quality time with loved ones. This is another year where they've seen reading-related terms in guest reviews, people searching for book retreats and book club retreat ideas. And also book enthusiast groups are traveling together to connect over stories. It's an interesting one. I have never been part of a book enthusiast group, but, you know, we each have our own different little meetups nowadays. Rhino says, not my type of trip, but to each their own. But maybe your trip is to become a Hangul master. How about that? You can practice your Korean writing while you travel. Okay. It's an interesting term, set jetting, jet setting, set jetting. You put these two together. What does it mean to do set jetting? This is another trend in 2026, which is a interest in pop culture inspired vacations. People who watch a TV show, people who watch a movie, and then want to go to that destination to see like the filming areas or where it's essentially filmed. I think this was like particularly popular for you know, something that definitely put like New Zealand on the map with all of the like the Hobbit and Middle Earth and those kind of things. Like, oh, let's go to the country where the Hobbits are from. Do I have any New Zealanders? Do I have any Kiwis on the live stream right now? If so, give me a Hobbit holler. All right. This picture right here. This is from the movie theater on Catalina Island, the 1,000-seat South 1,000-seat theater. Oh, that's hard. Say that 3 times fast. Okay. So, those are the those are some of the things that the travel powers that be are seeing. These are now just some of the things that I'm seeing with from no data to back it up other than my own eyes and my opinion. So, the things that I'm seeing in the hotel world, I'm seeing the big hotel chains adding lots and lots of brands and sub-brands and related brands. This is Marriott, Hyatt, Hilton. They all seem like they're in a race to just try to get the most hotel rooms in their loyalty program. And so to do that, they've had to create all these sub-brands, because to be a Hilton or a Marriott or a Hyatt, that means something. Like, it's built a certain way, there's a certain level of service provided, there's certain amenities, but Hilton, one of the sub-chains they've created is a thing called Spark. What's Spark? It's basically a motel conversion. It's basically like, if you're a motel or you own a motel and you wished you could call yourself a Hilton, you now can. All you need to do is put the Spark name on it, put some purple green paint on it, and there you go. You've got it, Spark by Hilton. There is a lot of this in the hotel industry now, trying to find the unmarketed to hotels that have never been able to join a brand and like get them to join one of these loyalty programs. I'm not seeing a whole ton of new hotel development in what I would call the traditional mid-tier or business conference hotel. Like, certainly in the USA, I feel like that's a market that the hotel chains just feel like is full. But the other end of the spectrum that the big hotel brands are going for is the very high-end luxury boutique hotels. Hyatt, the world of Hyatt, just added bunkhouse hotels. Have you ever heard of bunkhouse hotels? Prior to making this video, I've never heard of bunkhouse hotels, but I went on the World of Hyatt website to look at all their different brands, and I'm like, oh, this is a new brand that's part of Hyatt. They don't have many hotels, but they're all these kind of like fancy boutique-ish hotels. The Alila Ventana Big Sur that I told you about a few years ago, that wasn't part of Hyatt, but it recently is. Alila, not a big chain, but a very high-end chain, so we're seeing a lot of these bigger, higher-ended hotels, bigger, higher-ended, boutique-ish, higher-ended hotels. They're generally not big, joining the big loyalty programs. But I do feel like this proliferation of all these different brands in the big hotel chains is really diluting the value of being an elite member, because if you earned elite status with Marriott, Hyatt, or Hilton, and you stayed at one of their flagship properties, you generally knew what that meant in benefits. You get early check-in, late check-out, some bottles of water, some free breakfast, lounge access, whatever. But as the brands race to bring in all these other properties, they're not making them give much to elite members. And so you find that, like, the reasons perhaps why you were loyal to these programs, when you stay at all the new properties they've added in, you don't get the benefits that you felt like why you were staying with them. Now, there are exceptions to this rule. I feel like Hyatt definitely does the best today at their elite benefits. People often ask me that question, Chris, which loyalty program do you think is the best for treating loyal members well and points redemption and value and earning? It's at Hyatt. The challenge is Hyatt is the smallest of the big three, Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt, so you don't find them in as many locations. But my stay last year at the Grand Hyatt Kuala Lumpur was an example of a fantastic stay. I'll show you the breakfast in a moment, but I love this picture right here that I took there, which is, they have these signs in the hallway. This is in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. One, they tell you your silence is appreciated, and they also ask you to refrain from bringing in strong scented fruits into the hotel premise, as we aim to maintain a pleasant environment for all hotel guests. And you notice the picture there, that is the picture of a durian. So how many times have you stayed at a hotel that has a no durian sign in it? Okay, but the breakfast at the Grand Hyatt Kuala Lumpur, I used a club access award that I had with Hyatt to get access into the club. But if you get access into the club, they also say, well, you know what, you can eat breakfast in the club, but you can also just go down to the restaurant, to the full buffet, and have breakfast down there. And let me tell you, that full buffet was absolutely amazing, with views of Kuala Lumpur and the Petronas Towers and all the different cuisines you could want. One of the best hotel buffet breakfasts I've had in a long time. And the hotel, they don't have to provide such a good breakfast. Their guidelines from Hyatt don't say they need to provide dragon fruit and Indian food and dim sum and American food and fresh squeezed juices, but they do because they're like, it is these things that people stay here that make people want to stay here and make people come back. And when I was at this hotel sitting at breakfast, a hotel staff member came by and introduced herself and said she was just part of the guest experience team at the hotel. She asked if she could ask a few questions. How was my stay? Any issues? And like, boy, I feel like it was the kind of service where you're like, this feels so like 20 years ago when hotels cared. So it's not to say that all hotels don't care. Some still do. And I find that the most places I generally find that tends to be in the world of Hyatt, most commonly. Okay. Some negative trends I'm seeing in the world of hotels is I'm seeing hotels continue to skimp on housekeeping. And what does it mean to skimp on housekeeping? Well, yeah, 5-6 years ago, housekeeping generally was standard every night if you stayed at a hotel, and you had to like decline it if you didn't want it. You had to put out your do not disturb sign or something like that. Otherwise, they were coming in your room every day. But it seems like now at many properties, no housekeeping is the standard. And if you want housekeeping, you have to like specially request it. Or you get this kind of thing. This was a hotel that we stayed at in Japan, where as we checked in, they gave us this little sheet and they said, please fill this out. Your choice of would you a housekeeping service. You notice the top box on this is no thanks, because that's the one they want you to pick. No thanks, I don't want housekeeping. Or you can have housekeeping. What was super interesting about this hotel is that the housekeeping was only done from noon to 2 p.m. I don't know how they can clean all the rooms in the hotel in 2 hours, or maybe just not everybody requests it, and so that's how they're able to clean them all in that period. But I really, now I kind of have to specifically look and be like, this hotel that we're going to stay at, do they provide stay over housekeeping or not? Where it never used to be a concern in the past. Okay. The other thing, as an elite member with like all the big chains, I enjoy concierge and executive lounges. I enjoy a quick place to get breakfast, a quick place to get a tea, a quick place to get a hot cocoa, a quick place to get a dessert at night, or maybe make a hot tea, put some ice in it, make an iced tea, maybe a nice place to do some editing outside of your room. But many hotels have still not reopened their concierge or executive lounges, or maybe won't ever. In Waikiki, I really enjoyed the concierge lounge at the the Sheraton and the Westin Moana Surfrider, but last time I checked, those were both still closed. So that was actually one of the, if any hotel brands are listening, one of the reasons on my last trip that I stayed at the Sheraton Sacramento Downtown Hotel, the Sheraton Grand Sacramento Downtown Hotel, is they prominently advertised on their website that their club lounge was not just open, but it was open 7 days a week. This was annoying when I went to San Francisco and I stayed at the Hyatt Regency, and their club lounge is open, and it's a cool club lounge. It rotates 360 degrees, but it is closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. It's like, that's weird, super weird, in my opinion, to have your club lounge closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. It's I assume they want a 5-day work week for the employees that service the club lounge, and I'll have to figure it out, but it's just like a weird set of closing days. Okay. Just another like trends, a couple things to be aware of, and also maybe things to have or things to buy. Apple just released a new AirTag. Why am I talking about Apple AirTags? This video is not sponsored by Apple AirTags, but it could be. I don't think Apple sponsors any creators, do they? So it's lost on deaf ears. But I feel like Apple AirTags, if you're traveling and you want it and you're checking a bag, I think you should put some kind of tracker in it. And I think the AirTags, the Apple ones, are definitely the best ones. In their AirTag 2s, they've released this new feature where you can actually it'll help you find the direction of where they are. And they also allow you to provide a sharing link, so you can share with somebody else where this thing is. You could even share it with the airline to be like, I know where my suitcase is and you don't. So Janelle says she loves her AirTags. If you love your AirTags, you've only got a couple, or you're buying some more, take a look and make sure you get that the AirTag 2s. Our Disco Tube also asks if I've noticed that the traditional room service has declined. It is. I agree. Room service is on the decline, on the increase in expense. Many hotels are not doing room service, which is kind of a drag too. Or they're charging exorbitant fees, like in Vegas now at many of the hotels. They charge these exorbitant fees if you want room service. Alfredo has 8 AirTags. All very good, Alfredo. High five on the AirTags. Blue Tornadoes. I assume Sundays when you're heading to Japan. You may, if you do not have any AirTags and you do use Apple devices, I would encourage you, and you're checking luggage, to buy some and put them in there. Don't put them all in the same suitcase. Distribute them across your suitcases. Okay. The other thing I feel like from an equipment or gear perspective to really be aware of in 2026 is the, what's the word I'm using? Restrictions on power banks and lithium-ion batteries across many carriers and countries and things like that. So I'm sure you've all heard the news, heard the stories about things catching on fire on airplanes. And so in particular, one of the things is to limit the size of batteries, the amount of power that the batteries you bring on board can have. And so it is important that in 2026, your battery bank has printed on it how many milliamp hours it has. The general, like the kind of the limit that you find, like the sweet spot around the world, is about 20,000 milliamp hours, and this Samsung here has 10,000. And so in many places, security is like wants to pull out the battery bank and check the number that's written on it. So if you have a battery bank that doesn't have it printed on it, get a different one, assuming that you want it to get by security. They won't look at it all the time, but if they do, you want to make sure they can carry. Walter says Japan has very distinct rules about power banks. Kathy says we can't use them on planes now. I think you can. Like, again, it depends. Maybe it depends where you're going, things like that. In the USA, you can definitely still use your power bank on the plane. You just, it has to be not a very big one. Okay. And Janelle is ordering the new AirTag 2 right now. All right, very good. Very good, Janelle. You are right on top of it. Okay. All right, Q&A time. Let's do it.
Fellow explorers, it is now Q&A time. If you've got a question, I've got an answer.
Okay. Dadabetic comments that there are different requirements for battery banks and power banks and laptop batteries. And this is like there's a whole I could probably do a whole video about batteries on planes, but I don't have a laptop here to show you. The watt hour limit for laptop batteries are laptop batteries that are not installed in the laptop, like if you're bringing spare batteries. But if it's like a MacBook Pro that has like an integrated battery in it, whatever, like it's fine. Like you can bring things that have integrated batteries in them, but really their restriction on like lots of batteries are on these spare things that are just batteries. Okay. Kathy says we can carry them, but we can't use them. Interesting. Okay. Big Mac says I just got an Anchor 737, 24 milliamp hour and under 100 watt hours. All right. Good. Best wishes for you on that one, Big Mac. Okay. My dad, Electric Rick, says a train ride from San Diego to San Francisco seems like a place to travel. It'd be nice, but I think it's going to be a long time before the high-speed rail goes from San Diego to San Francisco. But I think that would be a nice ride when it's done. Kathy says that the power bank rules, they are new rules on Qantas and Jetstar. So it sounds like they are airline specific as opposed to country specific. Thank you for sharing that, Kathy. Alex says, I would love to see you review Seattle to Tokyo Narita on Alaska's new lie-down first-class seats on the 787. Thank you for the suggestion, Alex. I don't know how immediately I'll get to that because I'd need to reposition myself to Seattle to then get to Tokyo, but I will keep that in mind. I always like new experiences. VMix, good to see you. VMix says, hi Chris, would you recommend Omega Mart while in Vegas? I absolutely would. Omega Mart is amazing. If you've never been to Omega Mart, I would allocate at least 2 hours to Omega Mart, potentially longer if you've got more time, but it's an amazing experience. Meow Wolf has like 5 different locations across the USA. And you do have to have like an open mind about the place. Like these things that, you've probably heard like, oh, it's a supermarket. Like it's not a supermarket. It's this really just kind of amazing, immersive art experience that I shouldn't give away the entire story for you other than to tell you that it is absolutely worth going there. Eddie says, when you're filming in public and everyone's watching, do you ever feel awkward or self-conscious? How did you get comfortable with that? Yes, I definitely have felt awkward and self-conscious in the past. Occasionally I can still feel awkward or self-conscious, but I guess I I guess I get past it. And one is, I would say, like, I try when I'm recording not to be obnoxious. What does that mean? It means that I try not to, like, stand in the middle of a walkway, make it so that people have to get, like, a kind of like, where's some place we can stand that we're, like, a little bit out of the way. If we're in a restaurant, where's some place that we can go that's like a table that's like off on the side, that's not too busy, that we're not like bugging a lot of people if I'm making a video. Though it's interesting because we were when we were doing a video recently of a restaurant in Fountain Valley, California, Qua. It's a Chinese, Vietnamese fusion restaurant. We're at this restaurant, we're recording a video, and the table that was next to us, when they were finished with their meal, they were like, oh, by chance, are you Chris from Yellow Productions? And I'm like, oh, indeed. And like, oh, we love your channel. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then I'm like, oh, I'm sorry I was so loud and obnoxious making the video. I hope I didn't, like, disturb your meal. And like, oh, no, it's okay. When we heard you recording, then we felt we needed to be quiet too. And so this is actually where I go that, like, most people, if they're, like, looking at you while they're filming, they're actually looking at a place from, like, oh, like, that's kind of neat to see what's behind the scenes. And for those 1% who are like, darn you, influencers. Well, those people are Luddites and live in a whole different world. They need to get with the program. So, and I would say just doing it more. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. The other thing I'll say is I try to keep, in like big public places, I try to keep our clips short. So, for example, let's say I'm someplace that I'm not sure how they feel about filming. Maybe it's the kind of place where they might tell me to stop filming. If I just do a short clip, like if I just do 30 seconds, you know, by the time somebody in power who notices me to tell me to knock it off, by the time they come over or walk over or notice for long enough, I'm already done. They don't feel like they're gonna come over and be like, you stop recording, because I'm not anymore. You know, if they come over to be like, stop, sir, you can't record in here. I'm like, well, I'm not, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. Nero Road says, do you have any longer style road trips planned in 2026? None at the moment, but we tend not to plan our trips too far out. Our next big trip is going to be to Washington, D.C. We're taking an intermediate trip to Joshua Tree National Park. So those are a couple we have on the horizon. Alex says, are you talking about OC Lao? No, I'm talking about Qua, QUA, run by K Concepts, KEI Concepts. It's in the same shopping center as Brodard. Yes, filming with an iPhone is definitely less conspicuous than a large camera or, you know, a phone, right? So yes, when we do a lot of our content in restaurants or things like that, we generally record on the phone or on the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. They're small, they're less obnoxious, and so people don't tend to be like, who are you and what is that? But I will say there's absolutely times when I do break out the big camera because I kind of want to be noticed and I kind of want to be obnoxious. You know, when I carry the big camera around and say, when I was doing all the Christmas holiday light stuff during Vlogmas, and I'm at Tanaka Farms, and they have a Santa Claus. And if I just bring my phone up to Santa Claus doesn't do much to my phone. But by the time I bring up the Sony A7S III with a big microphone on top of it and a long lens, and I kind of push that into Santa Claus all of a sudden goes like, ho, 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 because there's like, oh, that's like a real camera. So I think they have their pros and cons. Okay. Kat says, when you visit the Las Vegas airport, have you been to the Chase and the Capital One Lounge? Which do you like better? I tend not to fly into Vegas. I tend to drive to Vegas. So I have not been to either the Chase or the Capital One Lounge in Vegas. But if anybody else has, please let Kat know what your experience is. I've been into the Amex Platinum Lounge in Vegas, which is fine. It's always way too busy. That's my issue. The Curtis family is so kind. They say, Chris, how do you not have more subs? You should be at least 1 million. Thank you so much, Curtis family. Please tell your friends and your family and have them tell their friends so we can get more people in here so we can get Yellow Productions to 1 million subs. I am on the quest for 1 million. Narrowcom says, I'll watch the Joshua National Park video. I'd definitely like to drive through there sometime. Janelle agrees too. Thank you kindly, Janelle. By the way, if you have not hit the thumbs up button on this video, please do so if you're watching it. We're at 166 viewers and 74 likes. It'd be fantastic if we could get that up to 100 likes. Because it really helps me with the YouTube algorithm, because it tells YouTube that you enjoy this video, so they should share it with more people. Nestor says, Chris, aren't you from Orange County? Would you consider leaning into Disneyland content? I've ebbed and flowed on the Disneyland content. I feel like to really do it, I need to like get an annual pass to like go in there more often. And the issue I have with the Disney content is it doesn't last a long time. It's like very fleeting because all the things at Disneyland are kind of like time-based and there's new things and it makes the old videos less relevant. And I try to make videos like my Singapore travel guide from 5 years ago still gets 1,000 views every day because nothing's changed about Singapore all that much, and that travel guide still really good. So that's where I waffle on the Disneyland. What would you like to see me do at Disneyland, Nestor? Alex says, do you have any thoughts or updates on the Golden Nugget? I've never stayed at the Golden Nugget, so I tend not to stay downtown Vegas. I tend to stay on the Strip. Just that's because where most of the new things are that I go to record. I have stayed downtown to stay at the Circa, review that when it opened, but I tend to be a Strip kind of person. RX YouTube says, when you drive to Vegas, do you take your personal car or rent a rental car? I have done it both ways, and I'll tell you, historically, I was often a rental car person. I would rent a car because I didn't want to put the miles on my car. But then the time to go to the airport and get the rental car and return the rental car, so now I just drive my car. Like, it's so much easier just to wake up in the morning and get in my car and go and come back to my house and the trip's done. I don't have to return a car. So now I pretty much exclusively just take my own car. All right. By the way, I see we were at 90 likes, so thank you for the additional likes. Got 10 more. Let's get 10 more to go to 100. If you're watching the archive, please give it a thumbs up as well. Even the archive, it really helps a lot too. Okay. MC says, please make a new Maui video. We're going in March for the first time. Okay, thank you for the tip, MZ. I don't know that I'm going to make it to Maui between now and then, but, you know, maybe like a Maui, planning guide or something is something that I could do. Vegas high trollers would like me to fight Mickey at Disney. You clearly want me to get banned from Disneyland and never be able to get back there again. Narrowcom Road says, Chris, you're probably doing the right balancing act. Chris, considering the nature of your channel, keep up the great work. I appreciate it. KB would like to see a Yellow Productions Lunar New Year Disneyland video. All right, thank you for the suggestion. Alex says, well, the reason why I don't stay at the Golden Nugget is because I stay at the Circus Manor Rooms. Those are my favorite. Alex, you know me oh too well. Jeff says, hey Chris, we're going to Japan this May, and your videos have helped us prepare for my wife, and I feel ready to go. Thanks very much. Thank you so much, Jeff, for the kind words. Enjoy your trip to Japan. Artist Tube says, have you done any content in the Lake Tahoe area? I have a Lake Tahoe travel guide, yes. And then I was just there as part of this big road trip, and so I did a Heavenly Village gondola area tour. And I have an upcoming Caesars Republic hotel review, and a Reno video too, which is kind of near Lake Tahoe. Okay. Photo G says, any plans to go to the Aulani? Would love to go to the Aulani. It is on my list of places that I want to go to in the next couple years, because I think our daughter, the Curious Princess, at 6 years old, is like in the prime Disney years. So yes. It's not booked, but yes, I plan to. Willie says, I drove to Vegas from LA once, never again. I assume because you did it when there was like awful traffic and it was 8 hours. If you time it right, and you know the traffic patterns, it's 4 hours. And if you don't, like you go Friday evening or you come back Sunday night or Monday night of a holiday weekend, it's the pits. But it's pretty good if you just don't go at those times. Thank you everybody for getting us up to 100 likes. Much love. Thank you. You all are the best. Grant says you go to DC for the 250th event. That is basically our reason for going to DC. 250th anniversary. The U.S. is celebrating, so we're not. I don't know that we're not going for like July 4th around those sort of things, but in particular, OC Girl really likes space and aviation stuff, and the National Air and Space Museum on the National Mall has just completed a significant. Well, they're almost completed a significant renovation. So that's also one of the highlights that we intend to go to. Gen X says, what's my favorite island in Hawaii? I like Oahu. Just because I like all the food on Oahu. That's why. Okay. Janelle says, Chris going back to his old DC stomping grounds. Indeed. For those who have been with the channel for a long time, I did spend some time living in DC. If you want to see technically Arlington, but it's all the DC area in that case. If you want to, if you really want to go back in time, you can search for Chris's Washington DC crib video. That's the title of it. Yellow Productions, and you'll find probably the one and only apartment tour that I'm ever gonna do. Okay. Kathy says the Air and Space Museum was renovating when we were there in 2023. It's almost done. They were planning the completion for the 250th anniversary. I think we're there just a little bit before it fully completes, but should still be fun. Kid Blue Creation says, will you be in DC for cherry blossom season? We've been there many times for cherry blossom season, and so we're actually avoiding cherry blossom season in particular because we're really busy, and so we want to go when it's not as busy so we can get in the museums without long lines and cheaper hotel rates and those sort of things. The Curtis family says, do you have a favorite YouTuber? I have a lot of favorite YouTubers. Mark from Walter's World, Josh from California Through My Lens, or a couple like great travel channels that I enjoy. Looking like I like Japan content, so I like Chris Broad from Abroad in Japan. I like what's his name? Can't remember. You put me on the spot and you give me all these things. So there's a lot of other YouTubers that I like too. A lot of great Vegas YouTubers out there as well. From my hometown, from San Diego, Jaycation's a lot of fun. And in the miles and point space, I like Ask Sebi. And somebody just turned me on to his wife, Mandy. I didn't realize she had a hotel review channel, but since someone mentioned that last week on a live stream, I've been tuning into a couple of Mandy Rome's reviews. Particularly, they just stayed at the Park Hyatt Tokyo, which is on my list of places that I want to go. Vegas High Troller says, never rent a car to Vegas, but I always rent a girlfriend in Vegas because I don't want to put miles on my girl at home. That's I am so glad, Vegas High Trollers. Thank you for your support. Okay, and Vegas High Troller says we should enjoy their channel too. So thank you for that. All right, let's go ahead and head to the giveaway.
Yes, it's the time you've been waiting for. It's time for the giveaway.
All right, fellow explorers, in every live stream, I always give away a Yellow Productions crew shirt. Today, we're giving this away for someone who can answer one of my lucky questions. My question to you is this tea that I am drinking right here is from a particular region in Taiwan. What is the region of Taiwan that this tea is from? If you're the first person to guess that, you'll win a Yellow Productions crew shirt. If you don't get to win one and you want to buy one, you can buy one here at the Yellow Productions shop. Link is also in the description below. And if you want to know, Chris, when is the next live stream, you can sign up for the Yellow Productions update. It's my emailing list, and I will email you every time I've scheduled one and let you know what the topic is so you never miss another live stream.
And now we have a winner chicken dinner.
Winner chicken dinner. Who is the winner? The first person with the right answer. Congratulations to Chopsticks Forever. Yes, the right answer right there is Alishan. It is from the Alishan region of Taiwan. So congratulations, Chopsticks Forever. Send me an email, chris@yellow-productions.com. Let me know your size and your address, and I will get that shirt headed right out to you. There were also many people who gave the right answers, but Eva was the first one. Who else gave right answers? Sean, Eddie, Sherry, cat. And a lot of people saying, oh, it was the T-Presso machine, which it was. Where was it? Orange County. I always love seeing, oh, this is interesting, Bellaterra, which is the mall that Come By Tea is in. So I like these, Bruce Tea. Bruce Tea, I love it. All right, thanks so much. Okay, well, fellow explorers, it's always a pleasure to hang out with you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the live. Thanks for the love. Thanks for the likes. As usual, I won't say goodbye because I'll see you in the next video.